Hi, and welcome back to Cello from the Beginning. Well, this is our lesson on the actual notes of Sinterklaas Good Heilig. So if you have found this lesson but you haven't done the introductory lesson, go back one lesson in the playlist and you'll find some technique that will help you to play this song well. So we're going to begin with the first 4 bars, and it's actually 2 bars that are the same that repeat. The only thing that's different is whether we're starting down bow or up bow. And you won't be surprised to discover that the rhythm that we're using and the bow pattern that we're using is the first one that we learned in the introductory lesson. We practiced A, D, A, D. That was our string crossing exercise. All we're going to do now is add a few left-hand notes in. It does, in fact, begin with open A. It's going to be slowly A, 1, A, and then D3. A, 1, A, D3. So that's our rhythm. Our string crossings are in exactly the same place that we practiced. All we're doing is adding 2 left-hand notes, a first finger on the A and a third finger on the D. So let's try that together slowly again. 1 and 2 and A, 1, A, 3 on the D, A, 1, A, 3 on D. All right, that's not too hard. Again, it's just the string crossing that's a challenge. Let's try it a little faster. 1, 2, ready, play. A, 1, A, 3. A, 1, A, 3. And now you might notice where I'm using, what part of the bow I'm using for this song. It really depends on how short we wanted these notes to be. If we wanted them to be very short, staccato, as we would say, then we would move close to the frog. We might play something like this. And that's okay, but it's a lot of staccato for me. So I prefer to put this out a little more towards the middle of the bow, not try to connect the notes on purpose. I'm not playing real legato or connected. I'm playing a little bit detached, but still on the string, just punching each note a little bit. It gives it the punch of the staccato, but without the super short notes. So, middle of the bow, kind of a comfortable place here. It does make our string crossing a little larger. Our pivot has to be a little further, but not too much, and I think it's doable. So let's do this one more time, and then we'll go on to the next 4 measures. So we're going to begin A, 1, A, D3. Ready, and A, 1, A, 3. A, 1, A, 3. All right, that's it. That's the first 4 measures. If you've got that down, then we're ready to go on. So the other half of the first kind of melody phrase is like this. So it's almost entirely on the D string except for 2 notes. It starts on the D string. We play 4, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 4, 4. So almost all 4s except for 1, 1 in there. So we'll do it together. 1 and 2 and 4, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 4, 4. That should be pretty easy for you. Just 2 notes. Let's try it a little faster. 1 and 2 and 4, 1, 4. Again, 1 and 2 and 4, 1, 4. All right. Then we have the last 2 measures of this section, which is a little descending scale, which we've been practicing in other lessons. So it should be pretty easy for you. We start with first finger on A, our note B. We're just going to play 1, O. Now we move to the D string, 4, 3, 1, D. Now you may recognize that pattern as the second pattern that we practiced in our introduction. And so now we're just adding the left-hand notes that go with it. Starting on first finger, 1, A, D4, 3, 1, D. So the only thing I have to watch out for here is this little string crossing, both of the bow and getting my fourth finger down on the D string. But I have that open A to get me from 1 on the A to 4 on the D. Now, connecting these together, these 4 bars together, is a little bit of a trick. Because we're playing, remember, 4, 1, 4, 1. So I have to go from a fourth finger on the D to a first finger on the A. That means a string crossing, but also got to get that first finger over there. And I don't want to wait all the way until it's time for that note to happen and then have to stop and move everything. So what I'm going to do is this. You'll notice, if you can see, it's subtle, but what I'm doing is, as I'm playing the fourth finger and I get towards the end of that measure, I've released my first finger and I've moved it over to the A string, so that fingering is ready, and then all I have to do is the bow change. I would even just practice that. 4 fourth finger G's and then a first finger on the A, so G to B. It's not too hard once you do it a few times. And then we connect the passage together. So let's try these 4 measures. We'll go slowly. 1 and 2 and 4. 1, 4. Get ready. 1, A, 4, 1, D. Let's try it again. 1 and 2 and 4. 1, 4. Get ready for the string crossing. 1, A, 4, 3, 1, D. Now, if you're looking at the sheet music, which, as always, is linked in the description, you'll notice that this last D that I played has a dot on top of it. It's a quarter note with a dot on top. That's a staccato mark. That means that note is going to be shorter than a regular quarter. Now, the beat is still there. It just means that the note is short and then there's a little kind of rest after it. We could have written this as an 8th note with an 8th rest, but a lot of times we don't do that. We just write the staccato dot on there instead. It's less information on the page, and once we know what the staccato means, we know how it works. So just looking at that measure where we're playing E, D, E, D, E, D. So I'm just shortening the actual note, but I'm leaving the space afterwards for what would take up the rest of the quarter. So our steady beat is still there. E, D, E, D, E, D, like that. I'm just shortening the length of the D, not the space of the beat, because we wouldn't generally do that. And so in context, and there's a couple of different ways to do that. You can do it with the bow on the string and just stop the bow. Like that. Sometimes that sounds a little rough though, so sometimes it's nice to actually come off the string. And you can even, you come off the string, it'll ring. So if you just touch with your fingers, it'll damp that D string and sometimes it makes a nicer sound. But it's good to learn to do it both ways, to come off the string and damp it like that, or to do it with the bow on the string and try to do it in a nice way. Because sometimes we do have to shorten a note without taking the bow off the string, and we want to have that good sound. What we don't want is this, where it sounds like the bow ran into the wall and we cut the note off. So that would happen if I use full pressure all the way to the end of that note and then try to abruptly stop it. I'm going to get that sound. So I have to just use pressure at the beginning of that staccato note and really lighten up. I think of it almost as a pizzicato with the bow. You know, pizzicato, it's all attack, right? We pluck, everything is at the beginning. That's it. So if you think of that with the bow, everything I'm doing is right at the attack of the note, and then after that it's just decay. So you can work on that as well. All right, that's the first 8 measures. So why don't we try that whole section together, because what comes after is really just an extension. It's kind of an odd length song. It's a 6-bar extension off of that that uses little phrases that we've already played. So we'll try this from the beginning. 1 and 2 and A, 1, A, 3, A, 1, A, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 0, 4, 3, 1, short. That's it. That's the first 8 measures. Now let's go on. I think we can do this in one lesson because it's material we're already familiar with. So the next 2 measures are like the beginning, except the rhythm changes slightly, but the notes are the same. This time it's A, 1, A, 3. So we have 2 eighth notes A, 2 eighth note first fingers, and then 2 quarters instead of the 2 eighth notes in quarter rhythm. So just this. So you should be easily able to do that if you've learned those first 2 measures, just changing the rhythm slightly. And then we get this piece again. Again, same notes, just a slightly different rhythm. The 4-4-4-1 is the same, but this time instead of having 4-4-4-4 on each eighth note, we just have 2 quarters. And then these last 2 measures are exactly the same as our final 2 measures, our measures 7 and 8. Right, we already know that. So let's put this together. This is going to be, if you've got your music there, this is going to be measure 9 to the end. And this is just for our new rhythms. So 1 and 2 and A, 1, 1, A, 3, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, A, 4, 3, 1, short. Now, because this piece is quite short, especially once we start playing it at tempo, and because it is basically a carol, we would almost certainly play it more than 1 time. Really, how many times is up to you? I would say at least 2 times. The accompaniment that I will put as a play along after this, I think for practice purposes, I'll go ahead and have it play 3 times so that you're not having to stop and start all the time. So that would be like 3 verses, 3 times through. And let me now, before we stop, let me just play it all the way through for you once without calling out the note names, and so that you can have a reference track to practice along with. And I'll go a little under tempo as a practice track. But again, you'll want to get it to 90-92, which is what I'll set the play along as. So bow on the string. Find our first finger there. We're ready. 1 and 2 and. And now I'm going to do it once at our finished tempo so that you can practice along with that. Again, we'll find our note. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, if you learned that and you've got it up to tempo, then you're ready to go on to the play along track and play with the piano part.